Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Nexus Mutual's community call. We get together every 2 weeks to share updates, discuss proposals on the forum, and hear from our community. We're glad you've joined us today. Let's review the agenda for today's call. Today, I'll be sharing updates on the tokenomics project and reviewing OpenCover's progress since they launched at the start of September. I'll highlight some recent listings and give you all an update on the changes our community manager Sem has made to the Nexus Mutual Discord server. And we'll hear from Hugh, who will share the foundation update. And after that, I will review the last week in cover sales before inviting members to ask questions or raise topics they would like to discuss. So let's get started. Talk a little bit about tokenomics. Over the last 2 months, the R&D and community teams have been facilitating a conversation about the RAM parameters. In this section, I'll talk about the latest discussion and provide a general update about the audit schedule for the RAM. So here first on this slide, you can see the different phases that we've gone through to date, talking about the RAM. The first phase was education. The phase 2 was discussing the liquidity parameters portion for the RAM. Those discussions both took place. There was snapshot votes for phase 1, and for phase 2 there wasn't a tremendous amount of input, but definitely discussion there. So we've solidified the parameters outlined in both of those discussions, and now we are on phase 3, where we're talking about the Oracle buffer and the initial price discussion. I will jump into this in a little bit more detail. So the parameters up for discussion in phase 3 are the Oracle buffer and initial prices. For those of you who aren't aware of what the Oracle buffer is, there is an identified need for an Oracle buffer, which creates a small window around book value where no buys and sells are allowed. This is done to allow for Oracle lag when the book value is calculated in ETH terms. Oracle delays may misrepresent the book value temporarily and create arbitrage opportunities that don't benefit mutual members in any way, and this can result in value destruction for members who hold NXM. So in this discussion, Ray, who is head of the R&D team, put up some of his recommendations, and he had recommended an Oracle buffer of 1% based on the existing Chainlink or Oracle deviation thresholds. A few other community members suggested a smaller Oracle buffer of around 0.4%, and Ray highlighted the potential risk of starting with the buffer too low. In a follow-up post, Ray had said that the lowest buffer he would be comfortable with would be about 0.75%. I had shared my thoughts in the discussion and weighed in and said the difference of 25 basis points wasn't worth the added risk, and I'd prefer a conservative approach, which would be prudent for launch, given that 25 basis points amounts to a difference of about 174,000 out of the initial liquidity of about $70 million or 43,750 ETH. This has been the biggest point of discussion in phase 3 so far, is the Oracle buffer. But that is a summary of the discussion to date. Feel free to jump in and share your thoughts. For the initial price discussion, the initial prices refer to the opening spot prices used in the above and below pools when the RAM is launched. Ray had recommended the initial spot prices be set 20% lower than the market price at launch. Having a lower initial spot price than the existing market price allows for price discovery to occur, while the ratchet moves the price closer to book value over time. The initial spot price also needs to be lower than the market price with a healthy enough buffer, since this proposal still has to go through the governance process, and prices could change between the time the parameter is set versus when the proposal is put on chain and voted on by members. Hugh and some others suggested that the initial spot price be set lower to 50% below market value, given that the ratchet will move fairly quickly at launch, and we want to make sure the market doesn't move significantly before the proposal is open for voting. So this discussion is open for feedback from members. This was slated to close at the beginning of this week, but there is still time to comment and share your thoughts on this. Because there hasn't been too much objection or alternative approaches shared, there's no plan to have a snapshot signaling board at this time, but if alternatives are shared that are comprehensive, then one can be put up on chain. So you can review this and share your thoughts on the forum this week. I'm going to move on to the next slide and talk a little bit about the general updates. So the engineering team is still making great progress. They're currently working through testing. They've scheduled 2 audits, one of which is underway, the economic audit that Chaos Labs is currently conducting. So the first part of the economic audit is going to consist of undertaking an in-depth review of and stress testing Nexus Mutual's ratcheting AMM mechanism design to evaluate its resistance under typical and adverse market conditions. This will provide a sense check and suggest changes to the RAM parameters that are being set by the community. And if Chaos Labs identifies any, they will develop strategies to protect the mechanism against manipulation. Once phase 3 is complete, the current phase that we're on, the RAM parameters will be in place and ready for feedback from the economic audit team, Chaos Labs. And part 1 of the economic audit is due to finish at the end of October. And part 1 is the most important for the launch of the RAM. The smart contract audit is scheduled. The foundation will be working with eSoro, Nexus Mutual's long-term auditing partner. That Solidity audit is booked for the 18th of October, and it's planned to take about a week and a half with some additional time slated for mitigations if there are findings. So this is the current state of the tokenomics project. We're getting very close on the parameters discussions. The audits are scheduled. The engineers are conducting testing. So everything is going smoothly, and really excited to see the progress here. I think the community has made a lot of progress just in the last couple months talking through the parameter discussions. So looking forward to sharing more updates on tokenomics. I want to move on and talk a bit about OpenCover, which is an on-chain cover provider built on top of Nexus Mutual. They launched at the beginning of this month on Base and Optimism. We've shared updates on their launch, but I wanted to highlight the progress in the last month. So looking at layer 2 networks and highlighting the opportunity here, a lot of members have asked when they would be able to buy cover on an L2 to reduce gas costs, and OpenCover came along and provided a solution by launching on 2 of the largest Ethereum layer 2 networks. If you look at activity on chain on layer 2s, the 3 most active networks are Optimism Mainnet, Base, and Arbitrum. For Base and Optimism, where OpenCover is deployed, there are about 67,000 addresses transacting on Optimism every day and about 67,000 addresses transacting on Base every day. There are about 45,000 addresses interacting with decentralized applications every day on Optimism and 60,000 interacting with decentralized applications on Base every day. So there are smaller amounts of numbers interacting on these chains, but there are still a sizable amount. And with some of the campaigns that OP and Base have conducted, they're targeting more growth. And with more growth comes more new users. And as more activity moves on chain to L2s, this represents a new market for the mutual and OpenCover to break into. So there's a lot of opportunity here. So with OpenCover building on top of the protocol and working to distribute cover to users on layer 2s, we can protect more retail users and reach new users who may be newly active on chain within the last year. OpenCover will expand their offerings over time, but they currently offer protocol cover for 12 protocols on L2s. For their first month, they've sold a sizable amount of cover. The cover fees from these will scale over time, but they are looking to reach more users after they hire a growth lead. You can see the growth lead listing on OpenCover if you're interested in applying. I've also included it in the chat in the call today, that you can check that out. But I wanted to look at OpenCover's sales to give you some insight on what is being purchased on layer 2s and how much has been sold so far. So the leading cover sales so far have been for Uniswap v3 and for Aave v3. We've seen large cover buys for Curve as well and Safe. So we're seeing smaller cover buys coming through, but $126,827 in their first month. They had some initial marketing, but again, they're working on reaching more users. The fees earned from this are not sizable at the moment, but will definitely scale over time. So we're looking at about $314 in cover sales. One thing to note here is that open cover allows people to buy cover for shorter durations, so durations between 7 and 30 days. Cover fees are going to be smaller from smaller cover buys, but they can definitely work on scaling cover buys on L2s and working with more protocol teams to help users access coverage and protect their positions. So I think they've made great progress and they have a really exceptional team. It's exciting to see someone building on Nexus and expanding distribution to reach new users on L2s. I think there's a lot more that they are focused on working on. And there are some podcasts and different marketing initiatives that they have planned over the next month. So excited to share updates on that once we have more information. I wanted to go over some of the recent protocol cover listings. So I'll jump into this. The first one is MakerDAO DAI savings rate. So sDAI. The sDAI is a wrapper around the original DAI savings rate contract, which just makes it into an ERC 4626 vault that people can deposit into. It's composable and can be integrated in a lot of different places. So members can protect their deposits in the MakerDAO DAI savings rate contract, which can be accessed through multiple user interfaces. This is not to be confused with the MakerDAO collateralized debt position or CDP protocol cover, which protects deposits in MakerDAO vaults for people who are borrowing against DAI with their collateral. But this one is a little more affordable than MakerDAO CDP protocol cover. Hopefully people will take the opportunity to protect their deposits in the DSR while still earning a very high yield and protecting against smart contract failure. Spark Lending, which is run by a sub-DAO within Maker, but Spark Lending is an Aave v3 fork, and they are working to expand the growth of DAI within the ecosystem by allowing people to borrow and incentivizing deposits in the DAI savings rate contract. But the Spark Lending markets are, again, based on the Aave v3 markets since it's a fork, and members can now buy protocol cover to protect their assets deposited in the Spark Lending markets. And we also listed EigenLayer v1. So EigenLayer, for those of you who are unaware, is a restaking protocol. You can take your liquid staking tokens and stake them there. Currently, they have incentives for people who are restaking, but members can buy a protocol cover to protect their LSTs restaked within the EigenLayer protocol. I have included links to those listings in the chat for today's call as well, but you can find those in the Nexus Mutual user interface and get a quote if you're interested in purchasing cover. I also wanted to highlight Q's upcoming seminar with the Liquid Collective group. So in this seminar on Wednesday, the 27th, which is tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central European time, Q will join the Alluvial team and others to discuss compliance, security, and coverage for liquid staking on-chain. This panel will talk about the liquid staking sector, DeFi at large, and how liquid staking can continue to grow and professionalize. The discussion will highlight trends and new waves of institutional participation, approaches that further the professionalization of the DeFi and liquid staking markets, and considerations for evaluating protocols and other topics. You can find the invite link in the chat for today's call. You can also find that on LinkedIn and Twitter. Be sure to sign up and attend. I think this is going to be a really great discussion. And you can tune in on YouTube, Twitter, or LinkedIn. I want to move on to the DAO Community Team update. We've made some changes on Discord, which I'm sure you've noticed, and added some new features. So I wanted to talk through this a little bit and share some of these updates. So while redesigning this, the community team had a few principles in mind when they were reorganizing Discord. One was to enhance the onboarding experience. New members coming in can go and visit the server guide. They can look at some of the resources that are there. So it's a really great way to get acquainted with some of the most important channels and some resources for getting onboarded within the server. We've changed the CAPTCHA bot so that it no longer DMs you. You can verify yourself right in the server and get the community member role. And once you have that role, you'll be able to see other things. You can also use channels and roles to update the channels you can see, so you can kind of customize your view within Discord. Having different roles allows you to get different notifications as well as we share updates. The other thing is we wanted to make it easier to find information. So whether it's accessing commands that are higher up, being able to find the events channels for community calls, or finding certain resources, again, having those in the server guide, linking those there, having sticky messages with YAG, which is a new bot that we've implemented to replace Me6. Having some of these bots in place makes it easier to find information, but we've also isolated out certain channels. So if you're looking to buy cover, you can ask a question in the purchasing cover channel. If you want to talk more about staking, you can look in the NXM staking channel. So a lot of these channels have been customized so that if you're asking a specific question about a specific role in the mutual, you can easily find that in the organizational system. And we want to strengthen ties with the broader Nexus Mutual ecosystem. So we want to be able to share updates, have discussions. We've got the forum channels for different actors within the mutual. You can discuss things. We're going to look to have more updates about governance automatically coming into the server so you can stay active and stay engaged. We want to make it easy for members to stay up to date on the latest happenings, to learn more about the mutual, and have an incentive to get more active and contribute more to the DAO and to the future of the protocol. So if you look through, there's a lot of new self-learn commands so that you can kind of learn about the mutual on your own. Sticky messages and messages previews. So if you're trying to look at a past point of discussion, that'll populate for you. We're using SeshBot, so you can sign up for upcoming community calls and different events. More on that in the future. And then we've got our ticketing system with Mava. So if you have a support question, you can use Mava. It helps kind of reduce discussions that are kind of specific to an individual and help people get support without being subject to some of the spam that people come into the server with. We've implemented a lot of controls through AutoMod and everything, and using some of our bots to try and keep spam and scammers down. But if you do find anyone DMing you or anyone sending you a message, please report that in the scam reports channel if someone is trying to get you to click into a different Discord server, or asking you for funds or requesting you to verify your wallet or anything. The team is never going to do that. So trying to make the Discord a little bit safer, make it easier to get involved and stay engaged, and to make the onboarding experience much better. If you have feedback, we'd love to hear it. We have an overview on the forum, but you can also leave us feedback in the DAO forums channel as well. So yeah, really excited about these updates. I think Sam has done a really incredible job, and I'm looking forward to hearing the community's thoughts on this. I will hand things over to Hugh and let him provide the foundation update for the week. Hugh?
Cool. Thanks, Brave. And Sam, I guess I'll keep it, relatively short this week, but the major things are obviously support for tokenomics stuff. So been heavily working through with Chaos Labs all of the details. They're getting to a really good spot. Kind of like they've got a full understanding of all the mechanics now, and got pretty sure they're very close to getting into the simulation environment in full, and then they'll be starting to crank out some of the results, etc. So once they're kind of in a good spot to start sharing, I'm sure they'll be up on the forum and stuff like that. So keep an eye out for that. But yeah, that's progressing really well. On the tech side, again, making good progress, mainly in testing phase at the moment, ahead of audit. So it's really just kind of cracking the handle on all the different tests and fuzzing, etc. So audit's still scheduled for, I think it's the 18th of October, if my memory serves correctly. So we're just kind of working towards that. So that's the biggest stuff on tokenomics. I guess more as a broader team. We'll be having a group off-site next week, so really kind of looking forward to kind of bringing the team together in one spot. Always helpful to do that semi-regularly to kind of sync on stuff and also kind of work out roadmap items and like where we're going to focus, because I think there's a few big tech items that are kind of coming to a head with tokenomics, etc., and a UI revamp. So then we can work out what we're going to be looking at after that. The primary goal of all of this stuff is more growth. So it's really about what we can do to support further sales. So that's kind of another thing. And I guess on the kind of growth side, it is definitely challenging out there right now, especially with the yields being suppressed within DeFi. More broadly, so there's enough room for the net yield play of get some yield and then protect it with Nexus. So there's very little opportunity right there right now. But the partnerships we do have, like with Liquid Collective, Alluvial, they're starting to grow quite well. TRM we're expecting more growth, so they've had some underlying growth there as well. So we're kind of, some of the stuff that we have done and executed on in the past is kind of picking up, and we're just getting volume increases off the back of that. So that's nice to see. And we're looking at some other deals and products that are very interesting. So there's definitely a whole bunch of stuff in the pipeline, and some of it's crypto native, some of it's not as crypto native, and some of it's kind of crypto adjacent. So there's definitely a lot of things going on, but I guess they're in various stages of discussion, proposal, and the rest of it. So feeling overall quite positive about that stuff, even though the like real native crypto stuff is quite flat and down at the moment, I guess, because bear market and there's not a lot of yield to be had. So I think that's just kind of where we are, and definitely cyclical, but it's a lot of this is about preparing and being in the right spots at the right time for when things improve in the markets, and we can be well positioned for that type of stuff. So that's our main aim on the growth and sales side of things. That's probably the main stuff. Obviously, happy to take questions if you have them.
Okay. Thanks, Hugh. If there are no questions, I will move on to the weekly analysis. So looking at the last week in cover sales, the mutual sold about 4.6 million in cover and earned $14,679 in fees. We saw Sherlock renew a bunch of their quota share cover. We've seen some decent cover buys for MakerDAO DSR and for Uniswap, and some smaller buys coming through as well. So definitely seeing our partnership with Sherlock paying off. A lot of reoccurring cover buys on a monthly basis, and some of the initial new products that we sold have seen cover buys, and then some of our mainstays have seen smaller cover buys as well. Looking at the active cover amount, it is at 31.4 million. And if we look at the split between DAI and ETH, it's 10.7 million in ETH and 20.75 million in DAI. You can see more detail on the breakdown of exactly what we're covering on the Covers Dune dashboard. You can go to Dune and find that under the Nexus Mutual profile, as well as information about NXM staking, the capital pool and ownership of the mutual, and our claims history as well. And now I'll open things up to the community to see if anybody has any questions or if there's anything they would like to raise before we wrap up the call for today. Okay. If not, I will close things out for today. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on the call. Always exciting to share updates. I hope everyone has a chance to explore the new layout on Discord, and we'll have more updates for you in a couple weeks' time. Thanks again for joining us. I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of their week and a great rest of their day. We'll see you on the next call. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.